All right, so we're going to have a really quick chat about chivalry versus equality in terms of relationship between men and women. So chivalry, just to quickly define it, I would say roughly is, men being going out their way to be nice to women. That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Definition, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just put out some ideas. I don't believe men and women are exactly the same. Yeah, they might have equal rights and things like that, but they are very different. We talked about this just a minute ago in my last happiness class, that physically we're completely different. So, for example, a punch from a man is twice as strong as a punch from a woman. There's so many differences. So I don't want to go in a UFC fight, for example, a man versus a woman. Just doesn't
We don't
make
want to
sense.
mix it up either. I mean, we can't have transgender men against women because I've seen that as well, and that is very brutal. That is actually against women's rights. If you allow a transgender person who is a man who is turned into a woman with the same physical mass
UFC fights,
yes, it's
Are
happened.
you kidding me?
And the man who's turned into a woman has beaten up many women to a bloody pulp, and lots of women are saying they say
That
he
just
has the
ruins-
strength of a man.
That just ruins the sport. I mean, I don't really like the idea of women doing UFC
bad for
fighting,
women's
but let's
rights.
just say in swimming, it also happens as well, right? There's like some transgender. There's a man who's like basically pretending to be a woman, and is winning all the swimming
He
competition.
was actually losing before he done a change into a woman. He was like 315th in the men's division, and now he's number one in the women's because with the same hormones that will come from a man, testosterone and the like, they were able to gain muscle at a much faster rate.
So basically, I would say, and a lot of women are complaining. So it's not like men are against. It's like both sides. Most men and women are against this idea of total equality. But I think the kind of grey area is where the discussion is happening. The grey area is, should there be roles? Like, should women be encouraged more so to be at home and men go out to work?
And so is that a relationship is two parts, one person covering for another person, and in Islam they say that your wife is your shield. You are a cover for each other. When you are married, you're a cover for each other. So we should realize that as like an umbrella, actually umbrellas equal on both sides, but we have to cover both sides, and they're not equal because we are covering for different things that we lack. So it's not about making everything equal, because if everything's equal, there's not as much variety, and life is a bit more boring. I mean, because you wouldn't like it if every woman was the same.
Oh my god! He made me think of a comedian said this. Like he said, I don't believe in equality because my favorite thing about a woman is not a bloke, a man. Right? Okay. So, like, do you know what I mean? I like how comedians summarize. Yeah. But the point is, we don't really want exact equality. We want to, like you're saying, work together.
Yes.
Okay. Like in a company, you have different roles.
You have specialists at different fields. You have a specialist in marketing, and you have a specialist in sales, and they may disagree with each other, but they'll come together for the company, which is like any of the children.
For the family in this case.
for the children or the family, and that's it.
Right. So then the people go, men should be housewives or whatever, right? My problem with that is the biology disagrees with that. For example, I don't know if you knew this, right? But women, when they have babies, their brains architecture changes dramatically so that they're better at taking care of children.
What you mean for the first 9 months and the baby?
No, for 2 years.
Oh, for 2 years?
Yeah, so then it wears
I
off.
assume this is the case because, of course, if you're having a baby, there must be also hormonal changes.
So that you can breastfeed and stuff like that, so you can practically take care of a baby, right?
Yeah.
So people nowadays, it's really weird, in this age of science, they don't know the science. They ignore the science and they go with their feelings of, I want it to be like this. I want men to be at home taking care of the children. It doesn't mean you don't take care of the children as a man, but you're not the prime person in charge of that.
Well, all I'm saying is that there's been a very concerted effort in the last 20 years to eliminate masculinity and label it as a bad thing. What I see in the media, men are labeled as aggressive, toxic, basically misogynistic.
Yeah. But that's not. I would say that is a.
homophobic as a
Right.
regular thing, and this is almost
Let me
thrown at
tell me if you agree with this. Tell me if you agree with this. I think it's a small minority that say this kind of stuff that are trying to wind up everybody else.
Unfortunately, I think it's a majority of women now.
Really?
No, yeah. I would say this from experience
Okay.
because I've even opened the door for a woman and she turned around. She goes, "Huh, chauvinist," and I was like, "What?"
I think
She looked at me
Simon
and said, "Chauvinist." I was like,
chauvinist.
Yeah. I opened the door and she just went, "Huh, chauvinist." I was like, I didn't even meet her before. I just opened the door.
Yeah.
It was in a random shop. But what I'm saying
Yeah.
is, there's a concerted effort.
Go on, Simon wants to say that because he had a.
It's amazing that you brought that topic up
Yeah.
because I came on the underground this morning and this beautiful young lady got on and it was crowded and I got up to let her sit down and she wouldn't sit down and she looked at me as much to say, "Old man, sit back down in your chair." I was gobsmacked. That's the first time it's ever happened to me. But here's the thing: will it prevent me from doing it again? No. You carry on doing it.
Because you
Once you stop, once you change your behaviour, they've won.
Because you haven't stopped caring, and that's what I want to say.
Yeah.
Is that if we eliminate masculinity and label every man that wants to defend his woman as a toxic aggressor, or every man that wants to keep his girlfriend or wife to himself and not let him have a threesome or whatever as someone who's jealous, then we will label all masculinity as bad. And without masculinity, we won't show the beauty of femininity. And that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Because
And
when you label masculinity as bad, the femininity is decreased, and two people become the same.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. Can I skip? So I'm gonna kind of summarize your point from a scientific point of view. So
I'm saying they cancel out to make nothing.
Sure. So if you're right. So women need men to be masculine. If you want to have good sex, they like the opposite attraction, and this is known by psychologists. One thing, right? And the other thing, what is masculinity? I think there's a lot of dimensions of masculinity, including, like, for example, that men. This is according to psychology. So when they say toxic masculinity, all these kinds, these are not psychological terms. These are made-up
And
terms, right?
mansplaining is
Let me just because I just we want to go for a coffee in a second, right? Okay. So I'm just going to kind of wind it up from some of the points you made, right? So toxic masculinity, all these kind of things, these are made up terms to divide people. But the useful terms and the useful understanding of the difference, the psychologists say the greatest difference in psychology between men and women is their interest. And what are men interested in? They're interested in, according to psychology, systemizing. That means like industrial stuff, right? And women, and we all know this from if we listen to our eyes, or let's not listen to our eyes, believe our eyes, right? We know women are completely different, and what do we know about women that psychologists are telling us now? That they're more social. What a surprise, right? Okay, so if we listen,
Men bring systems together, and
right?
women bring
So
systems together.
to summarize, right? If men are better at making money because they are more industrial, that's what the psychologist said. And if women are better at taking care of children because they're just how they're made, right? Like I talked about the baby brain thing, right? Okay, then it makes sense to do what we call in capitalism, we call it division of labor. Everybody specializes and they get more output, because if I'm a teacher and I say I'm going to try to be a doctor and a plumber, I'm going to do all of those jobs badly, and that is what Western families are finding. They're trying to do all the jobs and they're doing all the jobs badly, and then they're getting divorced because there's too much pressure and they're not having enough children. And in the Muslim families, you get exactly the opposite situation. Loads of children because the families work.
Yeah.
Last comments by you.
About
Nothing really. That was a summary. That'll do. Let's go for coffee.